Go ahead, your name.
My name's Alan Gard.
And where do you live?
Delmar, New York.
Okay. Later on, we'll get your address and telephone number for this.
Okay.
Because you might want a copy of it. Alan, when did you join the Navy?
I got commissioned at Notre Dame University ROTC in February of 1944.
As an ensign?
Yep.
And where did you go then?
I got 30 days leave, which I spent at home, and then I was sent down to Brooklyn Navy Yard, where I was to pick up a destroyer escort, the USS Walter S. Brown. Fortunately for me, the Walter S. Brown left 2 days before I got there. So there I was, a poor ensign with $150 in his pocket a month, which is pretty darn good, waiting for my ship to come back. It was terrible duty. I mean, we went to all the jazz spots and lived in a hotel, and it was pretty tough. It was pretty tough. But then the ship came in, and things changed, and we went to Norfolk, picked up a convoy for the Mediterranean. We went to Bizerte, North Africa. We underwent a German air attack just after we got into the Mediterranean with about 60 J.
And when was this?
This was in May of 44.
May of 44.
Right. And the Commodore of the convoy was so adroit in managing the convoy, he managed to shift the whole axis of the convoy to meet the torpedo planes in such a manner that they never got a broadside shot. They had to run down between columns, never got a clear shot, never lost a ship, and they splashed several of the Ju-88s.
Let's move over here. How many convoys did you make? Remember?
Well, that was a kind of a training cruise for new ensigns. After I came back, I went to Subchaser Training Center School at Miami, and I was there from June till September, and then I got my permanent ship, the USS Ulvert M. Moore DE-442.
And where did you go?
We went from there down through the canal up to San Diego, where we escorted the battleship Colorado out to Pearl Harbor. Went on a hunt for a submarine out of Pearl, didn't find it. Went to Eniwetok and then out to the Western Pacific. The big fleet anchorage out there was Ulithi, and that was the base from which they staged most of their attacks or raids, if you will, on Japanese held land. Yeah, whatever.
So which ones did you remember?
So we were involved in the invasion of Luzon, and the Jeep carrier Omni Bay was right on our starboard quarter when it got hit by a kamikaze. We picked up some of the people from that. Recording. Just us and the Stafford till they could find a Navy tug, and we sustained it. We ran down our port side. Yeah, you know. And the next day after we got the Stafford in safe hands, we continued on, caught up with a convoy and sustained another Japanese air attack, and we got credit for splashing two valves, I think it was. And we stayed up there until the middle of January, went back to Ulithi, left for Iwo Jima after that. Our DE division consisted of 4 DEs, and we operated most of the time with a Jeep carrier, the USS Tulagi, hunter-killer operations, basically. And we did patrol work around Iwo Jima looking for submarines, didn't find any. However, I backtrack. When we were up around Luzon, we were called in one night to assist a destroyer who had caught a Japanese submarine on the surface. And we made several hedgehog attacks on the submarine. On the 7th attack, I can still see it, the whole surface of the ocean, below the surface rather, lit up with a greenish blue white light, and from the explosion of these hedgehogs, projectiles hitting the submarine. After the war, we found out that it was the Japanese submarine RO-115, and had about 50 men on it, and that was that for them. So our skipper was Franklin D. Roosevelt Jr., and he's a very accomplished skipper. He certainly knew his business, and he had the highest respect from the crew.
Let me interrupt for just a minute.
Yes.
What was your, you were an ensign and probably by now maybe a Lieutenant JG?
I got JG in July of 45.
Okay. What were your duties on board the DE-442?
I was Assistant First Lieutenant, which is the highline rigging and the housekeeping end of the
What was your battle station during all this?
bridge. I was the OD during the bridge. In title only because the skipper was always up there but they had to put me someplace, so that's where it was. I'll back up a minute. My quarters were what they call the after officers' quarters, and they didn't have any room up forward anyway, but the idea was if they took a hit, there'd be somebody aft who could run the ship, and it was kind of laughable because we're about as junior as you can get, but I recall, this is in the sea story category, going into the Mediterranean, we meet a Navy tug hauling a DE with its stern blown off, and the German acoustical torpedoes homed on the noise the screws made. Well, that's right over. I was right over the screws where my quarters were. Well,
you wouldn't have been there.
Yeah. So it goes,
Could they degauze these ships?
They didn't do that, but they developed what they call fox gear. And you can see that windlass back there. They trail a device that made more noise than the screws did, so the torpedoes would head for that.
How about the magnetic mines?
Never got involved with that, and they didn't degauss as far as I know.
We were asked that question, and I never saw the equipment here, and I said,
I don't think we had it.
No.
I don't think that it was available on these things.
Let's get back to FDR Jr. What kind of a commanding officer was he?
Tremendous. Capable, hardworking. As I said, he had the utmost respect from officers and crew alike.
They gave him the command of a DE.
Yeah, he was exec on a DD in the Mediterranean that got hit. He got the Silver Star out of that. And we were on board when the president died, and that was
I'll bet that was
kind of a downer, at that time. I just missed meeting Eleanor. She was on the ship a day or two before I reported on board in the Brooklyn Navy Yard. Met his brother John, and that was about it for that.
Do you remember anything, an incident that you might want recalled on an oral history type of report?
Certain things, I read these stories about guys that want to talk about the war, and that never bothered me. Not that I go around and trumpet it, but certain things stay with you, and they're very vivid in your mind. We were, after Iwo Jima, we went to the invasion of Okinawa, and we were under steam for 90 straight days. I think we set some kind of a mileage record. I think we put on over 100,000 miles on our engines that time. But we had to go in and provision every 10 days, 2 weeks. There's a bunch of rocks off the southwest coast of Okinawa called Karama Redo. And they were kind of north and south ridges with water in between. And we had an air attack there one afternoon. We were just sitting there at anchor. And I could see this Japanese plane coming in. There was a LST anchored just off our starboard bow. It was either us or the LST. And the guy was going to hit one of us. Well, the LST looked juicier. He hit that guy, and a great big ball of flame went up, and stuff fell all over the place. I guess it wasn't sunk, but it was severely damaged. But it could have been us. Bad news.
Do you remember that, though?
Oh, yeah.
Anything else?
We were plane guard for the carrier on flight operations from time to time, and every once in a while a pilot would go in and we'd have to go in and pick him up. And we picked up this one guy one day, and I remember his name. Why should I? I don't know. His name was Roy Chapin. We picked him up and got him back on the carrier via the breeches buoy. You see one of them on the ship here. And they sent us back 20 gallons of ice cream. That was a standard pay for picking up a pilot. And we had come in with our carrier, and there was this air attack that I mentioned to you. There were a lot of Japanese planes coming in on it. Our carrier was on the other side of a ridge, and somehow he wasn't underway. He catapulted a plane off, and he got shot down by our own people.
Oh.
And I could see this thing wing over. The pilot fell out of the plane. He winged the plane over upside down. Pilot fell out, chute opened. It was the same guy that we had picked up, Roy Chapin.
Right? Did you get him again?
No, it was over on it, but we found out who it was.
And did he survive?
Oh, yeah.
I'll be darned.
The whole thing was a big ball of fire, And the guy says, "Stop shooting, those are my chickens." I can still hear the captain of the carrier.
He should never cross the street in traffic again.
Well, right. He was trying to do the right thing, and everybody was trigger happy. There's so many damn planes going by. Cruiser St. Louis was off, and I could hear the shells going over our heads. They were firing. Oh, bad news. Well,
I'll tell you what, you're going to be here again.
Yeah.
So think about it, and if you ever find in your mind something that you really want on there, we'll identify this by Alan Gard. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
And what's your address out there, so I can just put it on the report?
66 St. Clair Drive, Delmar, 12054.
And your telephone number?
439-4223.
Okay.